I've been in the position many times where my clothing brand isn't getting any sales, and I know how frustrating that can be, especially when you look around to all these other brands and it looks like they're all crushing it, and you're wondering, I've tried everything, why isn't my clothing brand getting any sales? And I wanna walk you through how I opened the floodgates for my own clothing brand, what it took for me to start getting sales for my brand and really transition from no sales at all to finally starting to get some sales rolling in for my brand. And honestly, from working with thousands of other clothing brands and helping them get over this hurdle of not having any sales, I've recognized that it's a universal problem that a lot of clothing brands struggle with, and there's a universal solution to these issues. So I can't wait to share it with you. Here it is. Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at BrandCrowd. BrandCrowd's a logo maker tool. You type in the name of the logo that you want to have made, hit enter, thousands of logos will come up. You choose the logo that you like, then you can edit and refine that logo as long as you want for free until it's perfect. I made this Hundo P design for my own clothing brand using BrandCrowd. If you're interested, head over to brandcrowd.com/apparel success and you can get up to 66% off at checkout. All right, so the first thing that I want to say if you have no sales coming in for your clothing brand right now is that most clothing brands in this position think that the issue with their brand, the reason why they're not getting many sales, is because of outreach. Their brand's just not getting in front of enough people. Their posts aren't going viral enough on TikTok. They don't have enough followers. They don't have enough people that know about their brand. And I think that this is actually flawed thinking most of the time. And what I'd say is that in like 90% of cases, this isn't the problem with most brands. This is the problem that we create as clothing brand owners when we don't actually want to look at our brand with open eyes and see it for what it is. And so where I would start here if you don't have any sales for your clothing brand is ask yourself the honest question. If you came across your own brand and somebody else owned it, somebody else created it, would you want to buy from it based on its current state, based on the way that it looks, and based on knowing everything about your brand that you do? Would you want to buy from your brand if you came across it and you hadn't created it, but you were just sort of shopping in the market? This is a great way to assess your own clothing brand with open eyes and see it from the lens that other people are seeing it through. Because I believe that when you actually do the mental experiment of imagining what it would be like to see your brand through the eyes of somebody who has no bias connection to you, they don't want to support you just because they know you, and they're truly considering buying clothing to wear around their own friends, to wear out in the streets, and to like actually rock on their bodies, it forces you to really have this like truly harsh view of your brand. And that's the way that most people are going to be viewing your brand. And that when you take on this sort of mental experiment and you visualize like this, what you'll end up coming to most times is you'll realize that maybe my brand isn't actually as cool right now as I think it is. Like, maybe I think it's way cooler than it is because I created it. And when I look at it through this other lens, I can see all of the reasons why maybe it's not as cool as I think it is. Like, for example, maybe you're picturing your brand as somebody who's stumbling across it for the first time, and you go, maybe my brand doesn't make as much sense to people as I thought it does. Or maybe it doesn't make as much sense just intuitively and simply, and I have to make that a lot clearer or explain it better. Because what most clothing brand owners think their problem is outreach, when in reality, it's almost all the time credibility. Usually there's something about your brand on the surface level when people come across it where they can pretty quickly tell that your clothing brand isn't on that level where everything is put together, everything's come together to create a solid brand that they'd want to rock around, that they think is really cool and it's really appealing to them. So let's go even further and put this mental experiment into action. Go to your clothing brand's Instagram account, go to your clothing brand's TikTok account, and ask yourself while you're looking through it, if I was stumbling across this account, would I want to buy from it? Would I want to buy from this brand? Go through your clothing brand's website and look through it through the eyes of somebody who's stumbling across it who doesn't know you, and ask, if I was scrolling through this website, does it look legit? Is this a brand that actually has sick designs that I'd want to rock, that I'd want to wear on my body and wear around my friends? Because I think that this tends to make things a lot clearer and shine a light on the areas of your clothing brand where there might be a chink in the armor. What we do as human beings, whenever we're meeting new people, whenever we're stumbling across new brands or new businesses, is we look for chinks in the armor. It's like we're naturally scanning for vulnerabilities. We're naturally scanning to see how legit is this person? How legit is this clothing brand? Is this business credible? Does it have that actual star power where it's like, wow, this is actually a sick clothing brand that I'd want to wear, that I'm totally willing to buy and pull up my money for? And this thought experiment of looking at my brand without any bias and just being really, really harsh in my own assessment of my clothing brand has helped me like crazy to realize that people aren't just gonna buy my brand because I created it. People are only gonna buy my brand because of the value that I've injected into it and because of how sick of a brand I've created for the world. Because if your brand looks sick enough and it's got the credibility, your website looks great, you've got a great looking social media, all of your designs look great, your brand is built for a particular group of people and everything looks legit, then you should be able to get a whole bunch of sales. You should be able to get sales to roll in from people that are able to see the value in it. And the best test for this is to do a little bit of marketing. If you get your brand out there, you get your brand in front of a few thousand people, whether that's on TikTok or on Instagram. If people aren't buying, if nobody's buying your clothing brand, nobody's supporting you, then that's not their issue for not buying your brand. It's something about your brand that's an issue that you need to fix, because it's not their responsibility to buy your clothing brand. It's your responsibility to create a clothing brand that people genuinely want. So I'm just like, don't shoot the messenger here. That's just the way that this space works, and it's a really harsh market, and you have to be willing to make changes in your brand and make improvements in order to grow. And so let's say that you do have all of that credibility and your issue for your brand truly is outreach. You just haven't been able to get your brand in front of enough people. Well, I think that the best way to go about making your first sales for your brand, the best way to actually start making sales like relatively easily, is to engage with people who are already commenting and engaging with your content. So if you're on Instagram and you've got a bunch of posts out there and they've got likes and comments on them, reach out in the DMs to those people, the people who have engaged with your content already, because those people have already shown love and they're your warmest leads. So you can DM them and be like, hey, we noticed you dropped a like on one of our videos. We really appreciate that. We just wanted to chuck you a 10% promo code or like a 20% promo code. We're trying to get the ball rolling for our brand. We're looking for support. Because at the beginning, what you have is time. And at the beginning, that's what I was doing like crazy for my own brand, was just putting in the effort to actually make those sales in like a one-on-one environment. People really appreciate when you take the time to really get to meet them. You actually start building a relationship. You get to learn what people are going through, who your customers are, and people want to support on that level. The challenge with that is that as you get bigger and bigger, you don't have as much time to like engage with everybody individually, and you have to start scaling everything up. You're dealing with all these other different issues, and so you don't have the luxury of being able to actually invest your time into making sales in like one-on-one DMs all the time. But just to simplify everything here, to start, I would just assess the credibility of your brand. And the best way to do that is to look at your brand through the eyes of somebody who's stumbling across your brand for the first time, who might be a part of your target market, and ask, would they want to buy your brand the way it is right now? And if not, why wouldn't they want to buy your brand? What is it about your brand that you could change or improve that would get them to want to support your brand, that would get them to see the value that your brand has to offer? And you may come to the realization that that's tweaking your website, that's improving the design of your website, that's improving the way that your social media looks, it's improving your brand concept and the clarity of what your brand's all about. Maybe it's doing better photography, coming out with cooler videos, whatever it is, but that'll really help you shine a light on it. And then when you push your marketing strategies on top of that, it should be so much more effective for you in terms of getting sales for your brand. I've recorded a 100% free clothing brand course for anybody starting up a clothing brand right now. All you have to do to get access is go to freeclothingcourse.com and go through it at your own pace, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.